Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. See you again, dear brothers and sisters. That's 2020. We try to carry on the discussion on introduction to microeconomics. And last time you had listened about introduction to macroeconomics. And now, if you try to read the slide, the microeconomics basically is the branches of economics theory that dealing with individual behavior. So macro is a bit aggregate, and the micro is considered to be the part of that macro, that aggregate, that big pictures of economics. Literally, microeconomics is the branch of economics that considers the behaviors of decision makers within the economy, such as individuals, households, and firms. The macroeconomics contrasts with the study of macroeconomics, which considers the economy as a whole. So, if you try to put the idea of microeconomics, really, you try to a bit details on individual behaviors, yours behavior, and the firm behaviors, as well as the household behaviors. And the second one, what are the principles of the microeconomics? Basically, there are of principles in the microeconomics or in economics at large. The first is about people face trade-off. So these first principles usually refers to condition whereby individual like you and I must select only one between two or more choices. Why it happens? Because in the rational behavior, everybody seems to be limited in terms of the time, in terms of energy, in terms of the cost. So we are so limited. Therefore, we cannot afford all those things simultaneously. We have to select which one is that give us a better and most appropriate result based on our condition or situation. And the second principle is about cost is what you give up to get something. Um, it is related still with the first principles, whereby if you sacrifice the another choices, of course you have to bear any other burden in your life. For example, you have two goods that you would like to purchase. The first is water, and second one, for example, is the tea. These two drinks are giving you a certain level of satisfaction. However, because of you have limited income, you have limited energy, you have limited maybe possibility to attain these two goods, so you have to sacrifice one of these two. Um, of course, if you sacrifice one of two, you have to sacrifice also the cost. You don't need to bear two costs, either tea or of the water. You only just cover one of them. Therefore, these principles attached to that. So the cost here refers to the thing that you give up, you sacrifice, due to you obtain or you select another choices. The third principle is about rational people think and the managing. Uh, this economics theory assumes that you are rational man. You are not irrational man. So whatever you think, whatever you did, and whatever you conducted in a particular activities, you consider to be a rational people. You can select this one is the best, this one is the worst, because you have a rational thinking. So in the context of rational people, you should think everything in the very basic margin. Margin means cost and benefit. You can compare and contrast in these two cost and benefit rationally. If you feel that the cost is higher compared to benefit, of course you will select to conduct that one compared to other one and the way around. And the fourth one is about the core principles people response to the incentives. Somehow the rational economic norms try to respond to activities based on the uh, financial motivations or the social motivations. So in this regard, the people try to respond the thing that the other side give to you. So if you feel that the benefit is more and you got extra benefit from this activity, somehow you will try to run and um, promote this one to be your choice. This is the fourth principle. And the fifth one is about trade can make everyone better off. Why it happens? Because in trade, the people is assumed to be rational, and they can estimate to what extent the rate of profit or the rate of loss that they will choose. So if they compare this cost and benefit then into one single calculation, they will add or they will get the extra either in the term of loss or in term of profit. But mostly in the people conducting the trade, they try to obtain such kind of benefit or profits. So once the profit is achieved or the profit is got from that trade, it will make the people better because they will have additional income or additional revenues. And the sixth principle is about market are usually a good way to organize economic activities. So in microeconomics, people behavior cannot conduct individually. They have to be in cohesive with others activities. These activities can only be practiced in the market operations. Because in the market, you see that there are supply and demand happens, or in the market, everybody can sell and purchase freely without any force from anybody else. So on this regards, markets are usually able uh, to push the best alternative and the best quantity and prices that everybody wanted to get, yeah, because they will rationally operating within the behavior of every individual. And the seventh principle is dealing about governments can sometimes improve economic outcomes. So on this regards, the government intervention is needed for promoting and increasing the economic activity. For these activities, the government can intervene through the policies. Whatever policy that they have, somehow they promote the monetary policy, for example, or fiscal policy, for example. Those policies are taken into account in order to intervene and stimulate the economy to be more productive and more uh, uh, bigger and higher in order to achieve such particular goals. And the eighth principles is about the standard of living depends on a country's productions. So standard of living actually refers to the welfare state, welfare conditions. If you see from other countries in the world that consider to be the developed countries, they are the countries that has huge level of gross domestic products or the income. So once the gross products is higher compared to others, it means that the level of activities, economic activities inside the country is also quite high. Yeah. Therefore, by assuming this this high level of income connecting or connected with the individual behaviors, whereby the individual behaviors is capable of uh, purchasing or producing or distributing this kind of goods and services. Eventually um, this income that they got uh, can stimulate the country's productions to be higher and higher. So, in short, sisters and brothers, that the standard of living basically uh, is reflected to the ability of the countries to produce quite numbers of goods or services. The more country can produce goods and services, the more the standard of living of the society inside the countries could be more. Yeah. And the nine principles is crisis-wise when the government prints too much money. So on this regards, it refers to the inflation rate. So the more money government printing um, in a particular conditions, it will make the first condition is economic growth or economic recessions, because if you take the money as your instruments, it will rise the price because the growth of the money is not equal with the growth of goods. Yeah, so this is the importance of the government intervention there to ensure that the growth of money and the growth of goods are equal, or they are not having a very um, significant gaps when the government tries to printing money. And 10 principles is about the society faces a short-term trade-off between the inflation and unemployment. Um, this relationship, that's the negative relationship. If inflation rises or increases, it will make the unemployment decreases. It will apply only in the short run by assuming that the demand, the purchasing power parity of the people is maintained. Yeah. So as long as the government or the society can maintain the income level, the demand of the society, so whatever what prices increases or decreases at the same time, it will not too much influence to the economy or particularly unemployment, because in the mid of short run inflations, the demand of the society still in at high level. Therefore, the firms will respond by adding more employees to work there because the demand is high compared to the supply side. But in the long run, it will not it will not have this kind of relationship, because in the long run, you see, when the inflation rises almost every time, it will diminish the income of the society or individuals. So time goes by when the income is reduced. Of course, the purchasing power will be lower. They don't have ability to purchase whatever price of the firm sell. So automatically the demand will be slowing down and the supply will respond accordingly. So if the response of the supply is not as high as before, it implies that the firms should cut off the number of employees. So in the long run, the inflation and employment will be integrated or move together. And the next one, we move to the consumer behavior theory. So the consumer behavior theory actually is the process and activity when someone is in contact with searching, selecting, purchasing, using, and evaluating products and services to meet your needs and wants. So here I try to underline the two terms, the needs and wants. They are absolutely different. So the need basically refers to condition whereby you have effective demands. So whatever you want, you can purchase it because you need it. But in terms of want, somehow it's quite a bit different. Want is quantitatively is ineffective demand side. So the want somehow is not followed by the effective demand, effective purchasing parity. Therefore, on this context, the consumer behavior theory should only take the needs of the individual as the basis for the measurements, not only the wants. The second one is the basic concept of consumer behavior states that consumers always trying to achieve the maximum use in the use of goods which he consumes. This maximum use means the maximum utility. Utility means the level of satisfaction. So utility is the degree to which a goods or services can satisfy someone's needs. So the consumer behavior basically tries uh, to emphasize the importance of the utility concepts. Therefore, the traditional approaches to consumer behavior is divided into two approaches. The first is we call as the cardinal approach. The cardinal use value approach considers the benefits and enjoyments of consumer gets to be expressed quantitatively. I mean that your satisfactions can be quantified, it can be measured. For example, your satisfaction is 5 util, for example, or 10 util. Yeah, you can measure and quantify your level of satisfaction. Differently, if you talk about the ordinal utility, consumer satisfaction from consumer goods can be expressed quantitatively, so that consumer behavior in choosing goods that will maximize satisfaction is shown in some same satisfaction curve. So uh, the ordinal utility just to compare that this is higher or lower, or this good or not good compared to previous one. So cannot be measured quantitatively. And this is just the modern approach that can be used by using quantitative approach that the affect economic satisfactions with the models, yeah, whereby the U is the utility and the X1 and the Sn is the good consumed. So in detail, we'll learn it when you have course later on. The next one we try to discuss about the production theory. So the previous one we discussed about the consumption theory for all from the demand side. And now we try to look at from the production side. The production is a physical and technical relationship between the numbers of production factors used and the amount produced. So this kind to portray the output and uh, the the factors that may influence the quantity output produced. And the second one, the factors of productions can be divided into four groups, namely labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurial expertise. So this factor of productions usually refers to um, the actors of economics activities, labor, yeah, land, capital, and entrepreneurs. And the production factors used in the production process are divided into two types. The first is the fixed factor of production. So these factors usually refers to the factors that very difficult to be changed. For example, land. Land is the factors that normally fixed, and we need extra time to manage or to arrange this factor production into another source of factor production. And the second one is factor of variable factors of production. So it can be changed gradually. For example, labors. So labor is quite dynamic. It can in and out every single time. And the second one is the talk about uh, theory of consumptions and productions. We talk about the demand and supply. Uh, I do so that you understood the demand is the number of the items that are purchased or requested at specific price and time. And the law of demand has been commonly shown and commonly studied, namely when the price of a good or services has decreased, the amount of demand for that of goods and services will increase. So it does mean that the law of demand actually uh, denotes that there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. Differently, if you talk about supply, is the quantity of goods or services available and can be offered by producers to consumers at any price level over a specific period of time. And the law of supply also states that the higher the price of the product, the more the numbers of goods offered by the sellers and the vice versa. So if the price of the goods is cheaper, surely the quantity offered will be decreased. So it does mean that the law of supply actually tries to emphasize the positive relationship. So there is a linear relationship with price and quantity supply. So here you can see the difference. So the demand has a negative and the supply has a positive relationship between price and quantity. And then the next one is about the market equilibrium. So this equilibrium market tries to link and match between the demand and supply into single graph. So market equilibrium is achieved if the numbers of goods demanded in the market is the same as the number of goods that are offered. Mathematically and graphically, this is shown with the similarities between QD and QS. So you see that from the graphs, if the QS and QD are matched, so it will be equilibrium, either in terms of price or in terms of quantity. So on this equilibrium quantity level, we don't recognize price from demand or supply, quantity from demand and supply. No, we have mixed them into single specific equilibrium points, namely price equilibrium and quantity equilibrium. And the next one is the market. I think I have already mentioned before that a market is a place of buyers and sellers of particular goods or services. So in the market, the buyers or demand and sellers and supply are met, and they're interacting dynamically into a single equilibrium point, and in the end, the transaction will be concluded. The next one is about the market uh, types. Yeah. So here we have various kind of markets. The first is about the perfect competitions. Yeah, this is the markets that are very competitive, and we may call as competitive market because in the market there are so many buyers and sellers, and they already know each other in terms of price and quantity. And if you want to see what are considered to be the perfect competitions, you can see from the characteristic. The first is product are the same. So the product is somehow similar or look alike. And the second one, there are many buyers and sellers so that it has no influence on our price. So the buyers or the sellers cannot freely highly increase or decrease the price because the buyers has been fully informed about the price and the buyers has already compared another price in other sellers. So very difficult then for the sellers to play the price. And the third one is about buyers and sellers of price takers. So to the sellers particularly, they are just taken by granted. They cannot set the price. They just following the price because in the perfect competitions, every seller they have um, full informed each other. So if one seller increases the price, of course the buyer has been informed and they will move to the sellers. So therefore the price is considered to be taken as granted. And the second one is about the monopoly market. I think you have been informed before that there is only one seller and so many buyers. So this monopoly market actually apply to the companies that provides the public goods, for example, electricity, water, and natural resources that dealing with the public human beings. And usually the monopoly market is taken by the governments because the government is believed is the most effective and efficient sectors or party that can ensure the life of others. And the third one is about the oligopoly market. Differently with monopoly market, oligopoly market is the market consisting of several sellers who sell a certain item so that one seller can influence the price. So in short, oligopoly just few sellers. So in monopoly one sellers, but in oligopoly few sellers, but these sellers has a market power. Uh, this seller can conquer a big size of the economic activities in such particular sectors, and sometimes it makes cooperation between firms, so they collude each other, they have collaborations so that they can set the price. Advertising is very necessary. So if you see there are so many products that frequently advertised in the TV or in mass media, so and they have a quite similar product with others, but the seller only few, not many, uh, you can consider them as the oligopoly players or oligopoly companies. And the next one is about monopolistic competition markets. So in the monopoly markets is a market with many sellers selling goods of different style. So it is quite similar with the perfect competitions, but the main difference of the monopoly market is in terms of the product itself. The product is somehow quite unique, and we cannot imitate the products with another one. So the product is quite specific, unique, and very difficult to be reproduced, even though so many sellers and buyers will take place in that market. And items that are sold are the same style but have different style. I mean that they have uniqueness. They have uniqueness and specific items that they cannot be imitated with others. Yeah. Usually these monopolistic competitions can be in the form of maybe toothbrush, or maybe shampoo. Yeah. They have different brands, different um, types, but quite unique respectively. Okay, dear sisters and brothers, I think that's all. Just a humble introduction to macroeconomics. I hope you can get some benefit and understanding from this short conversation. Thank you very much.